Norway, the Anders Breivik, who perpetrated the biggest act of terrorism in Norway. He killed 69 young political activists at like a youth camp, and then also blew up a bomb in a government building. So he went to prison, and he's been there since 2011 is when he was arrested for this crime. And he kind of complained about his prison status and how he was being treated unfairly, and that is him. And he complained that the conditions in the prison were not up to standard and were in violation of his rights as a European under the European Convention on Human Rights. There was a decision made in this case that on one of his counts of this mass murderer, like officially dubbed mass murderer, according to the verdict, he was right on one of them. And the prohibition of inhuman and degrading treatment represents a fundamental value in a democratic society. This applies no matter what, also in the treatment of terrorists and killers. So what were those situations that he complained about, and what are the laws that were broken? Okay, so his life. It seems like he came up with all the things he didn't like about his situation. Here is his situation. He was in 3 cells. He was allowed DVD player, newspapers, and an electronic typewriter. He could also play video games, according to CBS.
Jesus.
However, he was...
I remember, can I just pause there for a second, Brett? One of his complaints was that it was like a PlayStation 3 instead of a PlayStation 4. It was something along those lines. Like he wanted the latest model of whatever.
I don't have either of those.
And
he has more rooms than I do.
Norwegian government. That's true.
I should.
So other things he complained about, he was in solitary confinement for 22 to 23 hours a day and denied contact with other inmates. He would be woken up every 30 minutes for strip searches with women present, which is especially difficult for him because he hates Marxists and feminists. So that, in his manifestos, he did not like those people. He also was only allowed to communicate with other people through thick glass. And in addition to that, according to CBS News, he complained of bendy pens. The pens he was allowed to write with were too bendy and gave him cramps that amounted to, they gave him a, quote, almost indescribable manifestation of sadism. Huh. So they went through this...
that was just somebody doing the illusion, though. It was not actually bendy.
Like this one?
Yeah.
How does it... Oh, you sadistic
sadism.
and then they let him hold it, and it's firm. Anyhow, all right, so the ruling was that the court has to pay... The state has to pay his legal fees of around $40,000, and it violated Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which said basically no punishment for him that exceeded the necessary levels of being in prison and how much you suffer by being in prison. So if the state doesn't appeal within 4 weeks, they must allow him to communicate with other people. Now, he said that this violated Article 8 of the Human Rights Convention, which gave him a right to a private and family life, which he kind of elaborated and stretched to make it so, because he wanted to have a private life where he corresponded with other white supremacists so he could still keep the flame alive. The court said that he was not violated in terms of Article 8, and he still cannot communicate to those, white supremacists. But that's the lay of the land. But the takeaway is that some people are lauding Norway. If we go back to that last photo we had of him, he had it up to here, and so
Jesus Christ.
And so they said, all right, maybe not up to there, but a little lower. But yeah, so that's the takeaway. Yeah.
Okay, so I was ready to get mad about the story, but in the end decided not to. Am I not merciful? So this guy is the most unbearable guy in the world. I mean, you want to talk about right-wing privilege. The guy killed 77 people, most of them children, 14 years old kids, because he didn't like the political opinions of 14-year-olds. So he murdered them. 77 people he killed. There was a bombing, it was terrorism, he's got a political manifesto, and then he gets into prison and complains about PlayStation 3 and bendy pens. And then we got to go, and we meaning that in this case the people of Norway, got to go pay his legal fees. Oh, it's so great. But he thinks, like, what do you mean? Of course, I'm allowed to have the best PlayStations there are, and I'm allowed to have I'm allowed to have everything. I don't know if you know, I'm white and I'm right wing. I get everything. I get to kill other Norwegians because I don't like Muslims. He didn't even kill Muslims. He killed other Norwegians that he thought were, too kind to Muslims. But the courts are right. Because the one thing they agreed with him on was you can't keep him in solitary confinement for that long. And that's true. So even if it's the most despicable man on earth, we're supposed to be better than him.
Yeah.
And so we're supposed to treat him with, no, not the latest. I think Norway's way too soft. And all this, the DVDs and all this stuff, it drives me crazy. I've talked about it in the past. But you are supposed to treat him as a human being, because as a society, we're not supposed to be worse than him. We're supposed to be better than him. So I don't know who he wants to mingle with, and I don't know anybody who wants to mingle with him, but you should not keep him in solitary confinement for that long. It is inhumane.
I think in general, if you give him private time, especially with other prisoners, he's going to rapidly want solitary confinement, I think. But yeah, look, I agree. I don't think you... I thought at first the way people were pitching this story was that he is not allowed to talk to anybody. And I don't think that that's right. Look, if you want to have every single communication he has be very carefully vetted and monitored, I think that that is a great idea, because of course he is still a danger in what he can inspire others to do. And exactly who he communicates with, I think you can control that to some extent. But you can't keep a person totally separate from everyone else. That is, it's not that dissimilar long term from just killing them, because humans are social creatures, and we know from past experiments in US prisons that you can literally drive people insane by doing that. And this has nothing whatsoever to do with him. He is one of the worst people currently living in this world, but we care about the principle and we care about the rights. And you, just like you either have a border or you don't, you have rights or you don't. And if you don't have actual rights, then all you have is a gradient of things that we might let you have. And if Anders Breivik, he doesn't deserve to talk to other people, then maybe a terrorist deserves to be waterboarded. And maybe someone who rapes someone, we can hurt them in various ways and all that. Look, we're already putting them in prison. That's the punishment. You don't then just find every possible way to torment them. And that has nothing to do with him or caring about him. I don't care if he dies tomorrow. But we do have certain rights and certain principles, and in a country like Norway, which is one of the shiningest examples of actually caring about people in general, then I think that this is a good thing. And I agree, they do seem super soft, but we also know that Norway gets a lot for that. Their rates of recidivism and things like that are better because they have a more humane judicial system in this way.
Compared to the rest, like there is a cushy... There's like a whole article you should go see on the BBC about like how cushy are Norwegian prisons. And there's this one called Boestig, Boestig, that is literally a farm island that you can go to. So he is going through something worse than like those prisoners. So at least proportional to, other deeds, his punishment is worse. So
but the thing inside me that wants vengeance is not happy about Norwegians' prisons, but it is damning to my side that their rate of recidivism is so low. Facts are inconvenient things. And in this case, the facts indicate that that prison system works better. It does. So just last thoughts here. I don't want anybody to get confused. Him saying, I don't want feminists that are looking at my body. Like if it's a thing that you're in Norway that men can only check men, fine. If women can check men, it's vice versa. I don't know how they do it over there. Whatever the normal rules are, they should apply the normal rules. I don't give a damn what he thinks about feminists or Marxists, right? And no, he should, under no circumstances should we be able to communicate with right-wingers in the outside world and give them orders and directions. That's insane, right? But I want you to think about this. Even as much as you might hate him or Khalid Sheikh Mohammed or Yigal Amir or all these terrorists who unfortunately killed really important people and lots of people and had terrible effects in the world. But in his particular case, he's a fascist. He's happy if we take people's rights away. So don't let him win by taking his rights away. So again, we're supposed to be better than him.